Hello, thanks for listening to Acting Related, the MySite.actor podcast. I'm your host, Frank Prendergast, and my guest today is film and television director Patrick O'Shea, or Paddy as I call him. Paddy works in both drama and documentary. His debut feature film, Treekeeper, premiered at the 56th Cork Film Festival, and his documentary feature, Why Is There Anything Instead of Nothing, premiered on Sky Arts in 2018. He has numerous shorts in both drama and documentary form, and he has written and directed a 6-part docuseries called Scéalta Grá na hÉireann, or Ireland's Greatest Loves, produced by Bow Media for TG Ceathair. We had a really great chat about Paddy's experience of making the series. He shares some excellent insights that he's learned about marketing your work as a filmmaker, and we also chatted about why he chooses to work from Cork and how that enables him to create the work that he wants to. So, let's chat. So, Paddy, thanks so much for joining me for a chat. And yeah, I'm going to call you Paddy because we go back a while, even though officially you're Patrick O'Shea.
Yes, and, film credits wise anyway. Yeah.
And as we chat, it is the day before Valentine's Day. And I've no idea if it's, I'd say now my editing skills for podcasting might not be up to the challenge, but I'm going to try and get this out tomorrow, seeing as you currently have a 6-part documentary series on TG Ceathair called Scéalta Grá na hÉireann, or Ireland's Greatest Loves. So I'd love to chat to you a bit about that. I should mention right up front, I guess, that I depict Yeats in one of those episodes, and we had a lot of fun shooting it. But yeah, so maybe just how did it all come about? First of all, I mean, what drew you to the concept of Scéalta Grá na hÉireann?
Well, I'll have to be honest now, right? The first I heard of this it was an idea from Derek Nagle, who runs Bow Media, and right. We made the show under the company name Bow Media. It is Derek's company. He's the producer, and Derek had a concept of doing a documentary series about Ireland's loves, and in particular, each one being linked with an item or a place around the country that would kind of give us a connection to the story in particular, that whatever story and whatever item it was. And when I had known Derek for a while, and I was working with Rupert McCarthy Morogh for a long time, DP. We've been doing a lot of projects together, and Rupert and Derek were working on this together, and it was Derek's idea, and then Rupert and him were developing it, and they were like shooting a few sample kind of, they were getting the look of it together and getting the stories for the 6 episodes together. And I started working with Derek on some corporate stuff, and the three of us were just working together in different ways. And then they were doing this, and they were like, "Oh, we're going to go to TG Ceathair with this." And as you know, I went to Cláiste na Fiarsaigh and had the Irish, and I had taught. I went back and I taught transition year students how to make films, Os Gaeilge. So I had kept in touch with the Irish, you know, and I had done some work in Irish, and basically when it went in the direction of TG Ceathair, Derek was like, "Would you be interested in coming on board and being the writer director on this?" Because we'd worked good together, and he'd seen my work. And at this point, we were still in development, and so the three of us started looking at the 6 stories again. And some of them we kind of moved them around a bit, and we dropped one, we brought another one in, and it was exciting because it was the first. There was nothing else out there like this, so we got to pick 6 stories. We were the first to kind of dive in and go, okay, what are the 6 most interesting Irish love stories that had an impact on this country, that had an impact on our culture, and then also, is there items or places connected with those people that resonate with Irish people today and stuff. So they had found some of those items and things already, but it was great fun to be able to pick those stories. And I was familiar with.
And had they picked a lot of them already, or were you involved in the picking? Because I was going to ask that as well, about how you chose them, and were there love stories that you left out that you would love to return to?
Yes, no, that's the thing. Like the lads had already a list done, and I think we probably had 8 or 9 in order to have options for commissioning editors to kind of go, don't like that one, replace it with another one, or oh yeah, give us your, out of this 8, I would go with these ones. And then we narrowed it down ourselves to 6. I think the lads had most of the stories in there anyway, and there were kind of obvious strong ones like Michael Collins and Kitty Kiernan, Robert Emmett and Sarah Kern. Robert Emmett and Sarah Kern was almost leading the series. It was like that was the sample, that was the kind of that was ground zero for us. It's like, okay, this is the perfect story to be telling. There was an item that Derek had unrooted already. Himself and Rupert filmed a few shots of the brooch in the Cork Museum already they put a small sequence together about Robert Emmett and Sarah Kern and their love story in order to show off, the look of the show and get a feel of the show for prospective people that might be interested in backing it or supporting it. And so that we used Robert Emmett and Sarah Kern one as a perfect example of a really exciting love story that had a political impact or an impact on the country. And then also there was that item of the brooch that he had made for Sarah Kern that was like in the Cork Public Museum that you, as a audience watching, you could the next day go into the museum and see this item,
Right. Yeah. Cool.
And so that kind of gave us, that's the one now. What else is out there that we can continue with, and we can kind of use that as the base, as a sample of what we're doing. And I think the one suggestion I made, I remember, is the wedding, the Strombo and Aoife, what story was in there, that big painting that's in the National Gallery,
right?
Like huge giant painting of the wedding of Strombo and Aoife, and it's like that's the marker for English kind of the English invasion into Ireland, whatever. Strombo married a chieftain's daughter and basically opened the gates to the English coming in and taking over Ireland. But it was a very old story, and there was not an awful lot of story there. And also, the older the stories, they are, the less kind of records there are, archival records. And also, of course, it's just expensive to start, filming them and to recreate them, because you don't have photographs and you don't necessarily have a lot of paintings to work with. So I remember that was one that we dropped and we put in, I think it was probably Yeats and Maud Gonne went in there. In that place. So yeah, so you got to play Yeats. Now, the Yeats and Maud Gonne story is fascinating and it's so complicated, but it was actually really difficult to make in the series because the episodes are only like 25 minutes when you add in the ad breaks.
Sure.
And so condensing someone's story and then condensing two people, a couple's story, into 25 minutes was really difficult. And especially when they don't die tragically young, like nearly all of our episodes.
Yeah.
Yeats lived to be like 73 or 4 or something, and Maud lived into her 80s. And I was like, God damn it, these people just keep doing stuff right up till the end. And it was very difficult to condense it down,
Sure. Yeah. Sorry, I was just thinking there as well about the reaction on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Jesus.
I saw some of the retweets, and it appeared as though because Yeats asked Maud Gonne to marry him so many times, and because she refused him each time, it seemed like there was a few people on Twitter who wanted to cancel Yeats.
Yeah. I was waiting for the hashtag cancel Yeats, and I was like going, wow. But I at first, when it started happening a few days before the show, I was watching and I was kind of going, oh, this is kind of scary. And then I thought it was funny. And then I thought it was scary again, because there was about 50 people in a row that had some comment on Twitter about, oh, he was a creep, he was a stalker, poor Maud, oh, the trauma he caused Maud. And then people saying stuff like, oh, he asked her to marry him three times. She said no, he wouldn't take no for an answer. And then someone said, oh, he then turned his attentions to the daughter. And then someone said, oh, he married a daughter. And then someone said, oh, the daughter was 15 and he asked her to marry him. And someone said, oh, he actually married a daughter. Now, all that is false and not real, not true. Sure. I just didn't want to engage with it or get involved because
I don't think it's worth it. Yeah.
When I looked at these.
When you see the tweets, when you see, when you boil it down to, excuse me, something kind of as simplistic as that, you can kind of see, okay, I can see how someone would see it that way. But I mean, it was such a complicated relationship, and there was, there was so there's so much more to it than that, and it's clear that they had their divisive moments. They had their times when they did not get on, but equally, even at the very end, they were still very close again after a disagreement and after a time apart. So, yeah, I think it's a little too simplistic to say that Yeats.
It is, yeah. I mean, a stalker. I mean, he wasn't a stalker. If anything, you could say that she was a bit stalky, because anytime that she had hard times, it was Yeats who she sought out for comfort and for support. And because he was always in love with her from the beginning, she knew that he'd never refuse her needs, and he'd never refuse her to comfort her, to spend time with her. It's easy.
And I mean, let's face it, there are some very strange aspects to that relationship, but I think that is what is so fascinating about it.
And it's of the time as well. The Victorians, they were into occult and weird spiritual things. And it was a very turbulent time in our country and in politics and in Europe. So, it's too easy and too simplistic to say, oh, stalker, creep or whatever, because there's way more to the story than that. And, people judge Maud harshly too. The other side of it, some people do. And, she sacrificed a lot to do a lot of good work for the poor and disenfranchised people in Ireland. And she had a very tough upbringing in that she experienced a lot of loss in her own life when she was young. And I think, losing your parents when you're young is very tough. That separation thing and that trauma does definitely, can affect people in their own lives as they grow into adulthood and they have their own children, So, it's easy to judge someone sitting at a computer.
Yeah. And we had a lot of fun shooting those scenes, and beautiful environment. And the shots look stunning. And not just in that episode, but the whole series looks stunning. Every aspect of it, from the life that you've breathed into the older photographs, to the kind of the movement in some of the illustrations, to the interview shots look stunning. The reconstructions look stunning. One of the things I really like about the reconstructions is that I was watching it with Marcy and we were chatting about it, and they feel kind of glimpsed. And I think I was saying that to you the other day, that like the only way that I could think to describe it was that it almost feels like kind of half remembered memories or something, which I just thought was a really interesting way to approach it. That it's not there's two actors pretending to be two historical figures. There's a much more ethereal feeling than that, which I really liked.
Thank you. I'm really glad that you picked that out, or that you noticed that, because that was a specific plan we put into place, like right from the beginning when we started talking about the reconstructions in particular. Like, we were like, we don't, like, first of all, like, okay, you can say that you don't have the budget to recreate these times, right? And that is true. But even when people do have budgets to create these times, they don't always necessarily get it right, or it doesn't feel right, or it's just an interpretation of the past still. It's not, it's never going to be exactly, and some people look really like historical figures. Some actors can really pull it off. But again, they're the best of the best, and they get, it's like, it's very, very difficult, I think, to really pull off that perfect reconstruction with the actor looking and sounding like that. I mean, for instance, Gary Oldman doing Winston Churchill. It's uncanny sometimes when people can do that kind of thing, right? But obviously we didn't have that. We weren't ever going to have that situation. We were lucky in locations we selected that we could, like, the locations were almost ready to shoot. We had to just tweak them a little bit.
Right.
We had to find the right costumes with Kate Howard, who did the costumes, get the look of them and get the props and everything that was timely and making it look right. But then once that's all in place, our plan was always to have, like, a silhouette, a shot that someone moves through the frame, or you're filming. As much as we could, we always try to film through something. So what people call a dirty frame is the word dirty kind of gives it a negative connotation, but that there's always something between the camera and the character, like be it a doorway, a door frame, or a glass, a window, a drinks, like in the Michael Collins opening shot of the episode, she walks between her and the camera as Kitty Kiernan walks into the room. There is a table with a drinks tray, and like there's some ornaments, and there's a flower pot, and there's photographs. And as the camera moves past them, she's beyond them. So there is, there's props and there's items between the camera and the person. So
right.
It just, we didn't want to show these actors as the characters, as these historical figures, because especially very famous historical figures like Michael Collins, everyone knows what they look like, like W.B. Yeats and Maud Gonne. People have an idea already from all the photographs that exist of what they look like. So you don't want to be trying to pull that off. Sometimes it kind of takes you out of the program.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
So it was nice to keep a distance from them. And if we did go close up, it was always on an element of like their hands writing a letter, or, their hands stroking their face or doing something. Like you writing as Yeats, we were over your shoulder, side of your head and your ear down onto the page. And, you paid more attention to your hand and the quill and the ink and what was around the table. And it's just that sense of, oh yeah, Yeats is in a room at nighttime, candlelit, and he's writing, and it's like you're thinking about then what the VO is saying and about Yeats writing at nighttime,
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. It's not always easy because you always want to show faces, because we as human beings, we always seek out a face. Even in real life, in a crowd or walking down the street, we look at people's faces on a screen, on a cinema screen. Our eyes are attracted always to other people's faces and eyes, when we read people's what's really going on.
And maybe that's what gives it that quality as well, that there is a kind of a, because that what I said about the kind of half remembered memory, maybe it is that thing that when you're watching it, you're trying to seek out the faces, but they're not quite there. So there is that searching feeling.
Yeah, it makes you engage. Maybe it makes you work. It makes you're subconsciously working to figure out the scene and what's going on.
Yeah. And the Valentine's Day date thing, was that a happy coincidence, or was that very much a conscious programming choice?
That was a total happy coincidence.
Okay, cool.
It was funny. It was just like, okay. And then as well as that, it was like, is even before it was settled on what day it was going to be, because we don't have total control over that either. Like TG4's scheduling people came back and said, this is the day it's going to be on at this time and this day, and we're happy with the time. We could have gone on earlier, which wouldn't have been good. 8:30's pretty good. Like it's not a bad time to be on. People have finished their dinner generally and sitting down ready to go. But no, the Valentine's was just lucky for us. And then it was a case of, which one is going to fall closer to Valentine's? And, we had Yeats and Maud Gonne last week, and we've got Grania Nivala or Grace O'Malley coming up next week. So we're right now we're pushing Grace O'Malley because it's the next one, and we're using Valentine's to, it's funny. We sent out one of our press releases. The headline was, the Pirate Queen spends Valentine's 1578 in Limerick jail. It was like, how do we get people's attention? How do you get people to kind of relate to this thing that happened so long ago, 500 years ago, but she spent Valentine's Day in jail, in Limerick jail, in like, it was a 1578, I think it was 1578 or something like that. It was funny.
Cool. And that is something that you seem to have done a really good job with, actually, is getting media for the series as it has gone along. Because I imagine that's quite difficult as well, because to the press, mostly it's probably seen as a thing. Whereas I think you've done a great job of managing to get press for this episode and then this episode and then... and we're very happy at the moment with the way it's gone. It's very hard. Like, we're not a big show. It's half an hour episodes, and we're on a 8:30. Like, there's like I suppose the show after us at 9 o'clock is a 8:30 we're 8:30 to 9. Then there's a show at 9:30 that's like an hour long. It's a big show. It's been running for a few years, and it's award winning and stuff. So we're in competition with bigger shows to get attention in the media. And like that, when you are a series,
you kind of find that you get traction on the first episode. As you say, it's like, oh, they promote the series with the first episode and then they're kind of like done. And it's up to you. It really is up to you. Like the TV station they have their PR people and their marketing people in place, and they do always send it out to their regulars and to their certain places, and they push it every week as well. But you can never rely on that. If you really want to get the show out and you want to get the numbers up and get people engaging with it and talking about it, it is really down to you as the filmmaker, as the TV maker, as like Derek, as the producer, is taking the lead on this, and he always has the final say on how it's going to go. I've been working very closely with him on it, but in fairness, most of the national media stuff we've gotten is either through Derek or TG Carr now, and I'll have to give Derek the nod. He's gotten some really good stuff. Like we were on Arena on Radio 1 where they talked to Dermot Ferreter and Ciara, another. I'm after forgetting Ciara. Sorry, no, she'll kill me. They talk about talking to them about the Mike Collins episode on Radio 1 at like, it was 7:30, 8 o'clock in the evening. It's great coverage. We've got a lot of national media. It got a plug on Today FM. It got a plug on News Talk. It's got a plug on the Today Show on RTE. So I think people are talking about it. And the more, I think when it comes to marketing something, you have that fine line of when you start to annoy people, but you just have to be a bit bold as well, and a bit brazen maybe, because if you don't push every episode, it will kind of just, you get your regulars who like the series, and they'll continue watching it, or you'll have friends and family who are all interested in seeing the work you're doing. But if you really want to get it out there and want to get more interest and try to get those extra few people that don't know you or aren't connected, to get them involved, you really do have to try and push it. And every week, as soon as an episode ends and airs, the next day we're planning how we're going to push the next episode. And while we sent out, or we come up with like the initial kind of press pack originally and what the episodes were about, we didn't realize that, okay, that worked fine for the first week, but now we need to get something more clever to engage. And then when you start looking at, say, for example, last week on Yeats and Maud Gonne, when you Google Yeats and Maud Gonne, there's loads of news articles about them. They're one of that. They're those historic figures in Ireland that the newspapers regularly do something on them. Michael Collins is another one. Every week there's some paper doing something about Michael Collins, and it was the same with Yeats and Maud Gonne. So we started looking at what they were writing about Yeats and Maud Gonne. I was like, oh, we're sunk this week because, 2-3 weeks ago or a month ago, there was an article about Maud Gonne and doing something, or Yeats needs a cult, the cult kind of stuff. So we were lucky in that we had pictures and photographs and paintings from the private collection of Maud Gonne's great-granddaughter, Iseult White. And she was willing to talk about the show. She was willing to push it and to engage with it. And we colorized her pictures, and she was blown away with that colorization herself. And so the Times ended up doing a piece on their online, on their website, as opposed to print. But still, it's still the Irish Times, and it has great coverage. And they interviewed her, and they showed some of the pictures. So it was having the pictures from a private collection I haven't seen before. It's that kind of exclusive. If you can find something that hasn't been seen before, like the Robert Dimmitt episode we had, his debt mask, and we were able to recreate this guy that worked with Derek on colorizations and stuff, recreated the face of Robert Dimmitt from the debt mask. And again, the Irish Times ran that.
Yeah, that was quite incredible, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool, wasn't it? Yeah, that was like the first day we saw it in the studio and in the office, when it came in, it was just like, wow, no one's seen this yet. It was just us, and it was mind blowing. It was fascinating, and it worked. I mean, people engaged with it, and people were affected by it. People were kind of talking about it,
Yeah.
So, like I just said, the clever headlines. Like the thing is, right? Most of the newspapers, aside from the likes of the Irish Times now and the Examiner, right, they've been very good to us. The Examiner as well has been really engaging with the show. But most newspapers around the country, and the smaller newspapers, and especially the free newspapers, they'll get a story and they'll get say, a press release from you or from TG Carr. They will copy and paste it into a column on their website or on their paper, and they'll print it as it is. So you see something and you go, oh, for God's sake, like, it's just every information we give them is on there. It's like, so, but the onus is on you and anybody else out there who's like, looking to do this kind of stuff or will need to do it. It's just like, make sure it's as tight and as concise as you can possibly make it. And also think about the fact that it's going to be in the paper, and the person who's printing it or doing the story might not have time to actually rewrite it or to take the bits out of it to make it nice themselves. They might literally just copy and paste your article into the paper, or your press release as an article into the paper. So from the first 2 episodes, we started learning that, and we started rewriting, and we started making things a bit sharper and tighter. And we started coming up with whatever the top line was, whatever the headline was. They mightn't necessarily use that headline, but it got them engaged. But if that popped up in their email, if you're a journalist and you're up in Dublin, you're getting stuff in every night or every morning, and suddenly one comes up and it says, Ireland's pirate queen spent Valentine's Day in Limerick jail.
Yeah,
it's different,
It's a hook to get them in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
but it's incredible, isn't it? I mean, like, it's kind of mad the different hats you have to wear. Like, as a filmmaker, did you ever think that you would be spending so much time essentially doing marketing and PR?
Well, you know what, Frank? It's funny because when I was making my own short films back in the day, like, we've been making films since I was 15, but like, started getting a bit of traction in my early 20s, got into a few film festivals with a few shorts, right? And right there and then I figured out that people don't necessarily get in the paper because they're brilliant at what they do, but they don't get like, a center spread in the culture section because they're the next best thing. They get there because either they've got the good PR company behind them, or they had the neck to get in touch with the paper themselves, or they made a contact, or they were like networking and they have contacts in the press. Because I realized I knew a guy locally in Cork who worked for the Examiner, and said it to him, I've got 2 films in the Cork Film Festival. And suddenly he just, told a buddy in the Examiner who did the entertainment section, got a phone call, did an interview, some guy took a photograph, and I was in the paper, and everyone's like, oh, saw you in the Examiner. And it's like, you're kind of going, okay, it's that balance of like, am I being too egotistical here, and am I looking for attention, or am I actually promoting myself and my work and the brand?
Well, this is it. Yeah, I mean, you can't create work in a vacuum. You have to share it, and to get at the audience, you have to do it through those channels. Yeah, absolutely.
And I learned from that time onwards, I realized that you have to create your own press releases, or your own press, or your own perception, and like you said, the word isn't going to get out on its own, and word of mouth is all well and good, but you also have to try and push it out there so that your work, as you said, it's been seen, it's been talked about, is known, so that when you maybe do have an opportunity to get some backing or funding or interest or collaboration, someone has heard about your work or what you do, or someone has realized, oh, he must be pretty good because he was in the paper, or I went and watched his film in the festival because I saw the newspaper. So it's like you have to kind of sometimes go, okay, I don't care what people are going to think. They can think what they like. They can think that I'm just trying to be an ego or promote myself. But you know what, if you're going to be in the arts and you're going to be, as you said, got to get your work out there, then you have to kind of do your best. So I learned that. And also what you do is you learn from being in festivals with short films and getting a bit of traction, maybe winning a festival here and there. You start to do interviews, and it might be for a free paper that someone gets in a supermarket, or it might be on, a small radio station that no one kind of knows about. But like, I have done a number of interviews now on like 96 FM and Red FM. And then suddenly you find yourself doing an interview for the Irish Times. And it's like, if you hadn't done the smaller papers, school magazines, college magazines, and then suddenly you're doing 96 FM, then you're doing Red FM, and now you're doing the Irish Times. You wouldn't be able to, you wouldn't be as good, or you wouldn't have the experience of doing it if you hadn't done all the smaller ones,
Absolutely. No, it builds, and
builds.
and you build your language around it as well.
Yes.
And I think you made a really good point there as well about, it's not even just getting the word out, but it's also positioning the piece.
Yes.
And this, I mean, this happens to me all the time, because I will read, filmmaking blogs and so I'll read about a film, and as a result, I'll go and seek that film out. I'll watch that film, and because I've read the piece, I'm already predisposed to it, and I'm already on the lookout for the themes because the director has already informed me of the themes. And like, I'm sure everyone at this stage has a trail of films that they've started but not finished on Netflix or whatever streaming platforms. But what I find is that I am much more likely to persevere and finish the film if I have been prepped by reading all about the director's thoughts and what he was trying to achieve and how he did it. Because when I'm watching it, I'm already kind of I'm already in that world before I've ever actually started watching the film. Whereas if I come to a film cold, it's probably a poor reflection on me, but I'd say I'm not alone. That sometimes I'm not willing to do the work to actually to pull all that out of it.
Yeah, you're not, and you're also not as invested, and the world around or outside the film, you're not aware of it, so you don't really care as much, you know?
Yeah, incredible. Yeah, that was, I wasn't expecting actually to take that turn into such a deep dive into the marketing, but that's actually
it's fascinating.
I find that really fascinating.
When you brought it up, I started thinking about it, and we're doing it at the moment, so it's fresh in my mind, and I've been thinking about it a lot, and it's just like, how do you catch people's attention? There's so many, and like we had a tough time in the second week of the show. We were competing against the Biden inauguration. It was on the same night as our show was on, and then there was the mother and baby homes, there was COVID, there was all the Trump Biden stuff. The newspapers were full. I mean, it was like, even trying to get in touch with the newspapers, trying to get them to engage, their printed pages were full. There was so much in the news that they couldn't sacrifice a spot in the printed part of the paper. And like, so we ended up online a lot, which is fine because you get more readership online these days anyway, but there's nothing like that status of having a newspaper printed in your hands, you know? But we did okay, and the Examiner in particular have been very good to us that way. They did a really nice spread on Michael Collins, you know, and did a bit on the Queen of Arta Lyra episode as well. Claudia Rose Long, who's the singer from Cork, is in the episode and sings the Queen, a version of the Queen, and that kind of you get a great Cork reaction when you do something that's Cork based, which I love, you know.
yeah.
But it really helps, and not every city is like that, you know. If you're too big a city, there's a lot going on. Whereas you do something specifically Cork in Cork, they're mad for it, you know. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, speaking of that, something that I ask any kind of Cork creators that I have on the podcast is about that choice to stay in Cork, and I mean, and just about the experience of I guess making work outside of what are more traditionally kind of the centres for the industry. What has kept you in Cork?
I suppose it must be, like, it has to be the connections and that network that you build up, you know. But it's more than that, because it's also family and friends. I mean, I have a large family. We're all very close. My wife Holly, she has a large family. They're all very close, and I'm close with all of them now. And you really miss that when you go away. Like I lived in even in Dublin. Like I lived in Dublin for 6 years, and I could, and I did make films in Dublin. I could probably live and make films in Dublin, but it's just very expensive. But I also lived in Luxembourg, worked in film studios over there for a while. You know, spent time in the States. Lived in Manchester for a while, and it was like all those places, and I was always conscious of I wanted to make films, and I basically, the infrastructure was harder to find or to gauge or to kind of engage with. Right. It's just like, say now I'm in Luxembourg and I'm only there 6 months, and I've started to get to know a few people, but still, like, I can't go out and shoot in my mate's house, my mother's house. And I know it sounds sure. Amateurish, and it sounds like, you know, not a professional way to make films, but the fact is you have to make films continuously in order to get better at it and to get confident and to learn and to build a team around you that we're all working together, we're all getting to know each other, we're all improving at our craft.
Yeah, no, I think it's really important. And I think I had Andrew Macklin on as a guest there at the end of last year, and he has his own series of chats with creative people. And I was asking him, what were the common things that were coming up, and that was one of them, was the importance of building that network, or not even network, but the importance of building that, I suppose, tribe of people that you can work with and that you can create with. And again, speaking of that, you have made a lot of short films with a guy called Owen Fitzpatrick.
That's an interesting one, because while I was always making stuff in Cork, and I did come back to Cork after living away, I came back to Cork because I wanted to be where I felt comfortable and I felt at home. I never felt at home anywhere as much as I did in Cork.
Yeah.
And I felt I could make films in Cork and do work in Cork, and then work outside of Cork as well when the opportunity arose,
Yeah.
But and I did a lot of work and I made a lot of films in Cork with Rupert McCarthy Morogh as the DP, and I it was all a really steep learning curve and doing a lot of work and using a lot of favors. That's the thing as well, of course, using a lot of favors, trying to build up to the fact where you can actually get a budget to make something. But when it came to Owen, I've been working with Owen for a good few years in his as a trainer, as a coach. Owen is a public speaker, and he tours the world doing NLP training and influence training and this kind of stuff, and charisma training. He's published a number of books, and he speaks and trains all over the world. But Owen's passion is writing, film writing, and acting. So I didn't know this. I didn't know, he's been up on stage his whole life, and he's always talking to crowds of people. But I didn't know he wanted to be an actor. And then one summer he rang me from New York, and he's like, no, I knew he was in New York, but I thought he was working as a trainer, as a speaker, and doing NLP stuff. But he rang me from New York, and he said, look, for the last 2 summers I've been training in, I'm always forgetting it, there's 2 schools of acting in New York. There's the Strasbourg one, and then there is the
Stella Adler.
Adler, yeah, it was Adler or Strasbourg. It was one of these schools anyway. He went to 2 summers in a row to the acting school, to train and to take it seriously and to start looking into it as a real thing, and to take it seriously himself. So I was like, really, wow, that's cool, man. He's like, and I'm wondering if you would be willing to come over to New York for a week or so, and we'll make a short film together. And I was like, yeah, sure, definitely, So like that now, he sent me a script. I rewrote sections, I made notes on sections and sent them back to him. He came back to me again. So we went back and forth with a script for 4 or 5 times, maybe over a week. And when we were happy with the script, he's like, right, let's do this. And he wrote the script based on, again, this is, what we always do with short films. He wrote the script based on what he could access or favors he could pull on in Manhattan. So he was living downtown Manhattan, and he was going to college in this, it was a building as part of a larger college in New York that was specifically for performing arts and acting. He was doing an acting course there. And basically he flew me to New York. Now he wasn't paying me, but he covered all the expenses. So he flew me to New York. I had a small cinema camera called a Pocket, the Blackmagic Pocket cinema camera, with a very small lens on it, and a variable ND, so that I could control the amount of sunlight getting into the camera. And I had 2 radio mic packs in my bag. So literally all I had with me was the camera, a few lenses, and the radio mics.
Right.
Flew to New York. Owen picked me up, and he basically had himself in the lead, and he had 2 or 3 actors he had been working with in the previous summer in one of the big schools, one of the big acting schools in New York. And then he had this school he's in right now. He had the younger actors specifically picked out to play parts as well. And the story took place. He was a teacher, and he used the class in his school where he was going to college at the time, and he used all the students as his students. So it was very clever.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Especially when you're in New York and Manhattan, where it can be so expensive, and
that short,
you're in the States.
That short looks absolutely stunning.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, the brutal truth.
Yeah.
So
brilliant.
I think Owen was a great example there of how you put the elements together with what you know and what you have, because being in Cork, you can shoot in your mate's house, you can shoot in your mother's house, you can shoot in your own house, and also you've got some actors that you've been working with. he got all these actors together. He got all the locations together. And we also went on the fly around the streets and Central Park and stuff of New York with the microphone packs hidden in my backpack. They had radio mics on them. And the camera was so small, it looked like I was taking stills, And we filmed everywhere, Times Square Central Park.
You would not think watching that short that it was a guerrilla shoestring budget.
Thank you. That's great to hear. Like we got a great response from it, and actually won a prize down in the Fast and Film Festival in Skull. Like we couldn't believe it. We were blown away. Because like that, we made it. We were flying off the seat of our pants. Like we were literally running around New York, and like every now and then jumping in a cab, jumping into the subway. We filmed in the subway. Owen's sitting in the subway, and I'm filming him, and it's just like. I was nervous that we would get stopped by the police or at least questioned by the police, because there's a lot of permits needed in New York City and stuff. But I think once you keep it small and you keep it, you're not interrupting or kind of causing obstruction, then you're okay. But like it was great fun, and it was my first experience of New York as well, which was fantastic.
And then you've gone on. You've continued to collaborate.
Yeah, but Owen is very driven that way. Like once Owen puts his mind to something, he'll just keep it up. And he wanted to keep making short films, different ideas. He enjoyed coming up with ideas and working with different ideas. And basically what he was doing was, anytime there was a friend of his that he wanted to act with or write with or collaborate with, if they were, say, in Dublin, he wanted to do something in Dublin when they were there. So we would prep for that and we would do it. So, for example, we did The Penalty in Dublin when his friend from New Zealand was in town, Kevin. And they wrote the script together. I shot and directed it, and Owen would cover my expenses, and he would pay for the edit, which was great. I enjoyed shooting it. I wasn't out of pocket, but then as well as that, I got paid because I spent a few weeks in the edit, and he was covering that cost.
Gotcha.
So, it felt like you were being paid to make films while also, collaborating with really good friends and people that you like working with. Then he always wanted to make a film with another friend of his in Scotland, in Edinburgh, and the two of us went over there, and this friend, set up a lot of things. We shot in, this guy had he's a very successful guy who has like nightclubs and bars in Edinburgh, and we shot nightclubs, and he helped us set up different things. So it's just being clever and going places where people and have contacts. And he wanted me to go to Thailand to film with two friends of his that were there. He was going there for work, and he's like, I'm going there for work, let's make a film. Right. And my brother was getting married that week, so he was going, so I couldn't go. So Rupert went instead. Rupert went, and again, Owen paid for travel and expenses, and Rupert went over with a camera and microphones and shot a short film over there with him. But I went back to New York to do another film with him. And again, that was his script, his idea, and he got the actors together, and it was December. It was a December in New York, and we ran around the streets. And we actually had to replace a lot of the audio for that because we were shooting down by Dumbo on the right on the river there, on the bay, and there was helicopters, boats, all these like tourist taxis, river taxis and helicopters flying people out to the Statue of Liberty. It was so noisy. Oh my God. But again, we had great fun. We shot actually that time on the top of the Empire State Building, which
recreating the film scene.
Yes, the Sleepers in Seattle. Was it Sleepers in Seattle? Yeah.
Is it that, or is it You've Got Mail? I don't know. I mix those up. No, I think you're right. Sleepers in Seattle.
Sleepers in Seattle. Yeah. But again, we were pretending to take a photograph because there's security everywhere at the top of the Empire State Building, and. And what we did was we didn't even put the mic packs on them this time because we had to go up in the elevator and there was a lot of security and we didn't want to get caught or stopped or questioned. So I took the camera out, pretended I was taking a still of them, and they started goofing. And I filmed around there for half an hour, lots of different stuff with them, looking out over the city and kind of looking into each other's eyes. And then what we did was when we got back downstairs, we basically recreated the scene for sound. To just play the scene again a few times, and we recorded it for sound. Right. And then I stitched it together later, But
that's amazing.
Working with Owen, it's great. He's had great success. They've been played at a lot of festivals. They've won some prizes. And actually, very interestingly, two of the films, when we first started doing it, two of the films played in a small festival. And here's another lesson I learned, right? There's never too small a festival. It's like there's never too small an article, too small a paper, too small a radio station. There is no film festival too small for your film, because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to be there or who they're connected with, because we played at a small film festival in New York, in Manhattan, and no one heard about it. No one knows about it. In Ireland, no one knows about it. People in Manhattan might know about it, but there's festivals in Manhattan every day, And a lady from Hughes Pictures, which is a distribution company that specializes in short films, was at the festival. And she saw two of our films. She heard Owen talking or introducing or doing Q&A or something. She approached him afterwards and said, I'd love to take your two films. Do you have anything else? And now 5 of the films that myself and Owen have worked on together are on Amazon Prime in the States. That's through fantastic. That company. And just there, like over Christmas, I got an email from them, and 2 of the films have gone on to 2 other platforms that I don't know what platforms they are. I'd have to look them up again, because they're in the States and not familiar, but the films are out there because of that small festival,
That's brilliant. What about over here? Is there anywhere people can see any of the films at the moment?
At the moment, because of that deal with Hughes Pictures and because they're on Amazon Prime, we don't have them anywhere to view at the moment. The last time I checked, they're not available in Ireland, but they're on the US Amazon Prime.
And what about where should people go to either find out more about you or connect with you, or do you do social media?
Well, look, we're doing crazy social media at the moment for the show, for the series Scale to Grow on Heron, because again, it's like, you're worried you're going to annoy your own contacts and stuff and push it out there too much, or flood people's social media with your stuff. But you know what? You just have to kind of take that hit sometimes and just keep pushing, because somebody might see it, somebody might tune in, it might get across to somebody that doesn't know you. So we're all keeping it some bit, we're all pushing our own, the show on our own social media at the moment. And I'm on Instagram as Paddy O'Shea. I am on Facebook as Paddy O'Shea. I'm on Twitter as Paddy O'Shea. My own company is Southern Man Films, and I have a website, southernmanfilms.com. And also you can check out Bow Media. I do a lot of work with Derek, and Derek with Bow Media, we did the show together. But yeah, look, if you go on any of the social media at the moment, it's going to be all about Scale to Grow on Heron, which is fine by me.
Yeah, brilliant. Paddy, that was a fascinating chat, and I had loads more things that I was going to chat to you about, but I think the best thing to do might be to just bring you back another time later.
Sure. Listen, great chatting with you, man. It's very easy to talk to you, and thank you for bringing me on. It's great.
Really appreciate you giving your time and your insights. Absolutely fantastic, and well done on the show. And I look forward to chatting to you soon.
Thank you.
Be sure and check out Scale to Grow na Heron on TG Car. At the time of recording, the final episode is due to play on Wednesday, the 17th of February 2021 at 8:30 p.m. And you can also watch the episodes on the TG Car player. Thank you so much for listening. As always, connect with me on Twitter at FrankieP. And if you're looking for a quick, easy and affordable actors website, check out www.mysite.actor.